All right, so we have 3 flavors here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to ask who wants what. I brought all 3 flavors. One is passion fruit and key lime. One is cucumber and lime. And one is raspberry and hibiscus. Who wants what? Passion and key lime? All right, you got it.
Feeling the passion.
All right, Gumby, do you want cucumber and lime or raspberry and hibiscus?
I'll try the cucumber.
All right. My favorite, by the way.
Yeah?
That one
You
was
want it?
seriously in my
No,
head.
go. I have 20 more, so. All right, so according to Sam's Club, it says, Members Mark Spiked Seltzer is the best tasting hard seltzer in the market. It is smooth and refreshing, yet bold and delicious. It's delight and easy drinking while having a complex blend of flavors and being irresistible, flavorful. The Members Mark Spiked Seltzer 24-pack includes 3 of our signature flavors: cucumber, lime, raspberry, hibiscus, and passion fruit key lime. With no sugar added and all natural ingredients, each flavor has 86 calories and 1 gram of carbs. Serving size, making our seltzer the best and the only choice left on the shelf.
Only 1 carb?
1 carb.
This is a health drink.
Where's the carb?
Dude. So,
This is a health drink.
I'll be honest.
1 gram, not like 1 atom of carb, to be clear.
During my... Oh, no. I will speak to this. I am going to speak to this right now. So, I just cut 20 pounds to go fight in the Muay Thai Expo. 20 pounds to go fight in the Muay Thai Expo. That was last week.
And you're going to gain it all back tonight.
Yes. But not only did I gain muscle mass, I lost all my fat. Like, I lost massive fat. My wife is still complaining that my face is thin. All right. So I lost all my fat. I gained muscle mass. My walking weight has been around 188. Mm-hmm. I weighed in at 168.
Damn.
2.
And all you did was drink those things. Right?
I drank 2 of these a night to fall asleep
These are smoothies.
while reading my books. 2 of these a night while reading my books. Dude, this is a health drink.
I mean, if the FDA does not approve this, it's got to be good for you.
Dude. Like,
This is better for you than exorcism.
I have to tell you,
It is exorcism.
very, very happy with this drink because not only am I still getting rejuvenated, I'm getting rehydrated, but I can pleasantly fall asleep while reading my deep literature. I feel good.
Yeah.
I'm not hungover. I'm only drinking like 1 or 2 of these a night. I fall asleep happy, and they taste really, really good.
Wow.
So what I will say about what Sam's Club did is they didn't do the mistake that so many other seltzers did. They nuanced the flavor. Mm-hmm. Like, if you go to most of the seltzers, they're over the board. They try to overshug you. They're like, oh, man, this is lemonade. Oh, this is Kool-Aid. This is this. This is that. And I'm like, I don't want that. That sounds like you're trying way too hard. Right?
Yeah.
So when you hand me something that says raspberry and hibiscus, all right, that's doable.
Awesome.
That's doable, right? As a seltzer, that sounds good. You are holding my favorite one, cucumber and lime. Cucumber and lime is this beautiful little fragrant flavor that is just seltzer water and deliciousness.
You heard it here first. Yes, this thing
Open
puts
it already.
This puts 6-pack abs on you.
Dude.
Thank you, Sam's Club. Never working out again.
I was able to weigh in 20 pounds lighter because of the seltzer.
I just want to say, after taking a sip of that I now believe in demonic possession, and that I believe that the demons have subsequently left my body after taking one sip.
Yeah, like I don't like seltzers, okay? I personally, I feel that most, without naming them because we like sponsors,
Yeah.
without naming them, I'm not a fan of seltzer. I think that most seltzers suck. These seltzers are delicious.
Yeah, these are really good. I definitely agree with you. The initial taste is not overly hype.
No.
Which I cannot
There are
stand.
layers. There's so many layers.
Right?
Wow.
Yes.
I mean, it's because I've had I've had White Claw. I've had Aldi's White Claw. I've had whoever, I'm sorry I mentioned Aldi, but we love you, Aldi. We love you with so many things. Their White Claw is honestly good, but that.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I love the fact that I sat there and lost 20 pounds while enjoying one or two of these a night.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm literally going out tomorrow morning and picking a fight with someone way bigger than me.
right?
Yeah. And I'm going to say, no, Aaron said. And when my behind gets beat, I'm just going to know at that point I didn't drink enough of these.
The one thing I have to say for it, so the previous drink, you poured it in the cup for us. This drink, you hand us a can. This is the first time I'm holding a can. It has that little Members Mark, little black logo on it.
Yeah.
So it does give you that a moment of cognitive dissonance. Is this nectar of the gods or is it discount underwear?
Oh, I love that.
And it's obviously nectar of the gods, of course.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I was very pleasantly, and all three flavors, because I really thought they were going to suck. When I picked up a can and I said raspberry and hibiscus, I was like, no.
No.
Just no.
Right.
No.
There's no way.
No.
They can't pull it off.
What is hibiscus? Will it shrink your balls? What?
Yeah,
what is it?
yeah,
I don't know.
right. Yeah. Like, I'll chew on a hibiscus
good
because I can show a dominance, right?
Good health drink. A good health drink would do that, Keith. Should have started that years ago.
No. But honestly, I just lost 20 pounds enjoying
Sounds just
myself
like Alex Jones.
each night. And I get nothing out of this. That's the irony. So
The globalists are scared and running from us now.
here's the difference. Alex Jones, as he's laughing, Alex Jones earned $2 billion. And I'm not joking. Google that. Alex Jones earned $2 billion of revenue from his supplements last year. Wow. We earned nothing from telling you that we really enjoy the Members Mark Seltzer. It's delicious. $0 were earned from this.
But we do now have a perfect script in case we do start selling you dick pills.
So, Sam's Club, please. We're waiting. We're waiting.
Yeah, and if you want to debate us, Alex Jones, come on and debate us.
Alex Jones, we're waiting for you. Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook.
Yeah, if you're worried about the parents from that, you better worry about us. I'm popping 10 push-ups tonight as soon as I get home.
Yeah. No, I was pleasantly surprised. And so we have created.
Wait a minute. Full disclosure, Aaron is an MMA fighter. He trains every day, teaches. So you got to get that out.
Clearly, we got our tongues in our cheeks here a little bit.
Probably beat 9.9% of people he just meets on the street in a fight. So get that out there first.
I heard he had one each of these drinks in each hand and was pumping them back and forth. And so there was a workout in there somewhere.
I only train 6 days a week.
Only shit. How many days a week are there?
He gets plastered in seltzer water the 7th.
I only have 5 days a week.
Yeah. Fun story, though. So we did. I took 5, well, include myself, we took 5 fighters over to Des Moines to fight. And they did phenomenal. And Russ, who has been on this podcast before.
Russ
Herbert, the lead guitarist for Mossum. Awesome rock group. If you haven't heard them, pull them up on Spotify. They're awesome.
He's a drummer, right?
He's a drummer.
Yeah.
Phenomenal drummer. We're talking about Rush style drummer. Awesome drummer. So he went 3 rounds. 3 rounds. 3 times inside the competition. At 51 years old. At 51 years old, he went to the championships.
Wow.
That's amazing. So there
And
you
again, none of that would be possible. Are we allowed to talk about yours, or are we saving that for another podcast? Or
We're actually we're gonna wait on mine because there's actually a social media campaign.
I figured you were going to tie it in with some kind of podcast. All right.
That's coming. That's coming.
Okay.
I did okay. That's all I'm gonna say is I did okay, and that's coming. My fighter Tommy did phenomenal. Went all his rounds. First fight ever. Awesome. Great job. Dylan, amazing job. Even after taking a hard shot to the ribs, went through all of his rounds, lasted to the end. Awesome fight. So I'm firmly and resolutely looking forward to talking about these in the near future.
Nice.
Dakota, who had fought only boxing and MMA before, took his first Muay Thai fight, did great. So we'll cover this in future podcasts because tonight is all about demons.
Yeah. Gotta get back on track.
So, Keith, we had a series of gas workers. Go ahead.
Series of what?
Gas workers
Gas workers.
in the movie. You know.
Are we talking about natural gas procurement? And
Yeah. Remember the gas guys that got injured?
Right, yeah. What about him?
He's clueless.
I'm clueless.
Here, let me play this scene. I got
Go
the
ahead.
scene.
Go ahead.
Ready?
Go ahead.
It says sign in to confirm your age.
crap.
Bum.
All right, let me play this.
Gonna be.
He's like, look at this.
Are you over? Are you over 18?
Some people I may not look like it.
Gubby is frightfully
I'm
youthful.
totally confused what you're talking about. I'm still. Maybe it's just that seltzer just got straight to my head. I mean, it should be making my brain sharper based on your endorsement of it.
That was one of the very cool things about the movie is that they covered other people that were in the facility that didn't understand what was going on.
All right, you ready?
This is the house of God!
No, without my son!
Your son is gone. He's so blessed, Rosinel. Admit to thy name, Asmodeus. Bow to the power of God Almighty. Amen. I love the angels and Mother of God. You are divine to me. We humbly beseech you. And here you will remain. Come forever.
Now it is the hour of our death!
To crush Satan's skull. I am Asmodeus. Take over, and I command you. We beseech thee to send thy holy angels, and under thy command and by thy power, they may pursue the evil spirits. Encounter them on every side. Resist their bold attacks. And drive them hence into the abyss of war.
Oh.
I just crapped my pants.
So that was part of the exorcism process. And this is where we should probably preface preface this by talking about what the exorcism process.
Wait, we're gonna get back to gas workers. What you're talking about?
Go ahead, Keith.
I don't know. What are the gas workers?
So, I found it fascinating in the movie that the gas workers, well, construction workers,
Yeah.
they were experiencing things they couldn't describe, and I found that very fascinating in the movie.
Very true.
Yeah.
It was a very subtle hint that they gave to that.
Yeah.
They didn't want to work there any longer than they had to.
That's a good point.
And at one point they left because they said that they couldn't deal with it anymore.
Well, yeah, when things explode, I mean, that's...
One of the movie's strengths, I think they could have interrogated more, and it maybe would have made it like a little bit of slower burn to where they got to, was like the setting, like the building, the people interacting with it. Like, it's a very interesting place, and I think you could have gone a lot further with that. So, you know, including the mechanics of the natural gas arrangement. Anyway, go your the mechanics of exorcism.
Well, the mechanics of exorcism. So, for one thing, it's mostly liturgical, and that's the part that most people get wrong in exorcist movies, is that they engage the demon directly, and that's the problem. You do not engage the demon directly. When you do that, you give the demon license, and that's the part that the movie partially gets right and partially gets wrong. Part of how it gets it right is that it shows you how it does it wrong. Because there's no way that Gabriella Amorth would ever invite a demon inside of him. Never would he ever invite a demon inside of him, even to save somebody. Because if you have to do that to save somebody, you've not saved that person. You've only given them license to somebody else.
Interesting. Interesting point.
Yeah. And that's the part that I had a huge qualm with with the movie, is that it expanded way too far, the idea that, oh, hold on, if I just give the demon myself, we're all good.
They took too much liberty.
Yeah.
I see.
Because let's say I'm an exorcist. If I'm an exorcist and I tell the demon, no, it's okay, just take me over. Come on out. We're good. Okay. So you've now taken a licensed officer of the Legion of Heaven. You've given that demon authority over somebody who has authority in the Legion of Heaven. Why would you ever give somebody that authority? Right? So it's like saying, it's like walking up to somebody who broke into your house and saying, whoa, don't break in my house. Hold on. Just simply take me and walk me out there and we're good.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah. So as far as exorcism goes, that was the worst played part of the movie.
So you didn't subscribe to that part?
No.
I found that part interesting when he finally conceded. I think, going back to Keith's original point in terms of the writing, they may have written themselves kind of, their backs against the wall, so to speak, when they decided to make this demon that powerful.
Yeah.
When he became that powerful, there was nowhere for them to go in terms of the writing, right? Like, how is this demon going to escape? How's the boy going to be saved? How do they get out? Making some kind of happy ending kind of thing.
This feels like the train started going and they couldn't really stop it, because like this is where like the whole it's set up by the Da Vinci Code style subplot, where it's the idea of that like this building was involved in a past exorcism that or a failed exorcism that possessed the chief exorcist of the Vatican at the time of the Inquisition. And basically it's like trying to say that everything bad that happened in the Catholic Church for like the next several hundred years was the result of this demonic possession.
Which was nuanced.
Yeah. Which is a bit of excusing a lot of things. So then you're at this, so the subplot is that, the demon is specifically trying to possess the Pope's exorcist, Amorth. And so now you have this big thing where you actually like, I think they still could have gotten off the off ramp, like just because like him actually getting possessed feels contrary to what they were trying to, the conflict that they were trying to avoid in a way. Like they could have probably resolved it a different way, but like once you're on that train, you're like, well, maybe, hell does have to freeze over and we do have to have the possessed, chief exorcist and everything has to be, some other new dark age in the church and the random other priest has to somehow help him get out of it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Good plot hole.
Well, if I'm thinking
Armor?
if I'm thinking just within the context of the movie, they did stay within their own boundaries of their context of the movie. Because it was at that point, Father Morthe, am I saying that right? Morthe?
Morth.
Father Morth realized, wow, I'm realizing now that the exorcists before me during the Inquisition ran into the same problem. They weren't strong enough to beat this demon, that the best that they could do was trap it there.
Yeah.
And the Vatican wanted to forever keep it trapped under their seal.
Yeah.
Never meant to be unsealed until the construction, happened.
Yeah.
It was at that point he realized, like, crap, they had it right? Yeah.
Which still seems like a plot hole, but go ahead.
It is. But within the context of their movie, that's when he realized that, like, oh, man, the only thing they could do, what else could he have done?
Because one thing they never explain is, okay, you trap the demon down there. How? Go ahead.
I don't know. Somehow they did it. I don't.
Exactly.
It was trapped behind there. I don't know how to.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, but
he's trapped. That's it. He's down there.
that exorcist down there had the key, right?
Yeah, the key. How?
I don't know. You're the Catholic.
Just in a skeleton. That's like right in the catechism, by the way. But the only logical off ramp was to never take the on ramp in the first place.
Yes.
Like, the route.
Thank you.
I think the to stay true to Amorth's writings, like, would be to you could have high stakes. You could have higher stakes that even have like the Hollywood special effects elements and go above and beyond what he would even describe in the process of exorcism and possession. But to ground it in the idea that this is stuff that happens every day, like among lots of people, like would be to truly ground it in the story that Amorth is telling in his own books. Like to not try to tie it to some big conspiracy theory. That was the big mistake there, I think, and it set up a lot of the other mistakes that I think happened after that.
We don't need Indiana Jones? So, and that was my biggest problem, was the fact that they threw in an Indiana Jones storyline in a storyline that didn't need Indiana Jones. Like,
Right.
There's ways around that we've known for thousands of years, and they could have played on that, but they didn't. And instead, what they did was they used Indiana Jones.
Well, they turned Father Morris, his own personality, to the extreme against himself. He put himself in that position, is what you're saying.
No. If you actually read Gabriel...
No, within the context of the movie, not the actual Father.
Gotcha. Yes.
Yeah.
I think a good template to have followed, and this sounds like a very weird parallel, but have you ever watched the show Psych? And it's about a guy who's pretending to be like what do you call it, psychiatric or
Fortune teller or something?
not a fortune teller, but someone who can like read
prophet?
kind of like a prophet type person. I'm like blanking on the words. I have too many of these.
Psychic?
Psychic. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he's really he has like really good deduction skills, so he gets hired by the police department. So kind of like the sub thread of Psych is that there's just like a bunch of murders that happen in sleepy old Santa Barbara, California. So like to do the same thing that like in Gabriel Amorth's world, like that there just happens to be a lot of people possessed by crazy ass demons. Like, but it doesn't really like ever leak to the outside of that. I think would have been the proper way to handle that. Like this is like kind of weird, bizarre world, but I'm like feeling it because like this guy is like kicking ass inside this world, but it doesn't touch the Vatican. It doesn't touch the Pope. You don't have to call it the Pope's Exorcist. As I said before, you call it Father Kick-Ass and his sidekick, and that's the show, that's the series, and you have 65 movies after it.
Yeah, the Metromiter, Watson. So, overall, I did enjoy the movie. I thought it was fun. I thought that the first 2/3 of the movie were true to his character, true to some of his struggles with the church, because in real life, he had people who were like outspoken supporters of his and cemented his position in the church. And you had a few opponents of his that were, again, outspoken, vehement, and were far more secular than they were Catholic. And yes, I do firmly believe that Gabriele Amorth was correct in his assessment of that, both in real life, in his books, and what was played in the movie. Because if the devil doesn't exist, why are we Catholic?
I mean, yeah, I kind of feel the same way with Protestant. If evil doesn't exist, and really, it's a good argument that God doesn't really exist, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting though, like, so I would like to interrogate his character as the person that they're trying to portray in the movie a little more. So I was, fast audiobook reading through his first book, which I forget the name of.
Good book.
And I feel like the actual person is a little bit of a sociopath.
Exorcist tells his tale, right?
And part of that is because he speaks so lovingly of Padre Pio, who I also think is a sociopath, who is also a saint. That's another episode. But
that's a different conversation because I'm gonna fall in your head. But go ahead.
So like when we talk about like what but I want to tackle from the question that we just posed is like, why be Catholic, why be Christian if there isn't this evil in the world? And what's interesting when we talk about exorcism and why I'm skeptical about a lot of expressions of it is it's squarely focused like on the vectors of possession being these things that just happen to be like the culture war shibboleths that we're most obsessed with. So Amorth talks about like the key pathways to demonic possession being, and of course this is of his time. I forget when that book exactly was written, if it was like the 80s or a little bit later. But, he's talking about communism, homosexuality, loose sexual morals. So all these things that we associate with like the like conservative expression of religion saying like, these are the demonic things happening in our world. It's coming from the communists. It's coming from the gays. It's coming from the people with irregular marriages or whatever. And yet, like, when you think about like what's actually, and that's like who, like, there's a testimony in the book, like from like basically written from the perspective of someone who was actually exorcised, and they're talking about a number of these things too. And you think about like what are like the actual like grave evils in our world, and it's like so if I was to say like I haven't looked this up in a while, but I think this is like the most common crime in America, and it also happens to be in Catholic theology one of the 4 sins that cries out to God for vengeance. What would you guess that would be?
Justice and mercy.
Wait, repeat the question.
The question is, what is one of the most common crimes committed in America and also in Catholic theology is one of the 4 sins that cries out to God for vengeance?
Justice and mercy.
Crime?
Crime, actual crime. Although it's not prosecuted like a crime like you would think, like jail time and all.
Justice and mercy.
Child abuse?
Depriving the worker of his wages. Wage theft.
Justice and mercy.
So wage theft is like, even though it's not like you don't get jail time, like it goes through this whole like bureaucratic thing. Like the most common thing to happen to people, like that's actually like illegal, is for like someone not to pay someone for their labor.
Yes.
That happens every day, all the time. It happens to rich people, it happens to poor people, it happens to poor people more, happens to immigrants more, especially undocumented
Have
immigrants.
you seen America?
Yeah. So wouldn't you expect if we think about like what would a just God's stance towards like what are the grave evils to focus on be versus like, wouldn't you expect more exorcisms to be performed on businessmen who are depriving workers of their just wages than homosexuals?
Yeah.
Like that's
a valid question. It's a fair question.
So I think that's where I feel like it kind of gets into like potential spiritual abuse, where it's like it's following the same patterns that a lot of our preachers follow, and a lot of the folks who are trying to say like, basically trying to influence people's religious minds that these personal sins are the big issue, when we have these grave injustices that are really harming people that go completely unadjudicated. They're not at all attributed to demonic possession.
Yeah.
Like, why isn't Leo Leonard, the guy who basically rigged the whole Supreme Court, why isn't he getting like, exercised?
Soapbox.
So that's my thing where I'm like, I feel like this is the same.
We should cover that in an episode.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I mean, you can.
You should join the next social justice podcast with David LaGuardia that we just had.
We're doing another
which
one?
You missed.
Wait, I was there though.
He was there.
I didn't miss it, but maybe other people did.
This didn't come up.
Oh, this issue may not have come up.
Oh, no. But we're having another one?
Oh, we're good. Yeah.
Damn.
So
yeah.
So that was the opening. So that social justice episode was the opening to a series of social justice episodes.
Yeah.
So, and I purposely positioned it that way. I wanted people to understand what social justice was, so that way we could expand on topics within social justice.
But if I respond to that, if I may,
Go ahead.
in terms of like exorcism and all that, I feel the same way. That the right people in life who may need quote unquote an exorcism may never get it in life. Of course, everyone in this room may differ on who that person may be who needs an exorcism, right? So that aside, I don't know if that necessarily disqualifies the need for exorcisms in and of itself, because I believe there are spiritual matters or spiritual matters, like the poorest poor person can have a spiritual depravity that may need exercise versus a Jeff Bezos who may have a spiritual issue that may need exercise. The poor person may be more inclined to recognize that versus the guy who pounds his chest, right? Like the Pharisee, oh, look at them over there, Lord. Thank God I'm not like them, who doesn't think they need exercise.
Well,
right.
Do they recognize? So this is kind of gets into a key component is the people who do get the exorcism are either those who recognize themselves that they need it, or they have people around them do. So does this come from like this like honest assessment? Like, I don't want to say that being dishonest in their position, but like this like clear-headed assessment that, oh, there's a demon here? Or does it come from all the preachers are telling me that a demon is here?
So that is part of the process. So I will tell you this. I do read about exorcism and demonology. And I have personal stories that go along with that. But things have now happened in my life that have manifested. But there are those who become possessed that want to be possessed. And that is because it grants them certain authorities inside this world. And there are people that do not want to be exercised.
Yeah, I agree. Just willing vessels.
They want the power. They want to be that person in this world. I think all I have to do is look around, look at whoever whatever billionaire you're thinking of. I think that person is possessed.
Could be.
I honestly do believe that if you are a billionaire, you are.
Elon Musk just bad at running Twitter.
I do believe that you are a billionaire. You are possessed by one of these demonic forces. I don't believe there's any way around that.
And may or may not know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do believe that you have to take a grain of salt with some of this, because some people don't know they are.
Yeah.
Other ones absolutely know they are, and they want to be.
Yeah. And that's what I was just trying to kind of touch on, is that regardless of who that person may or may not be, or, or how the process may look, whether it's Catholicism's exorcism or the Protestant church's form of deliverance. I still think the process for people are necessary to,
Yeah.
when X, Y, and Z, when serving 20 years in jail,
Windows.
when serving 20 years in jail for a Ponzi scheme doesn't work, or that's a demon.
That is definitely a demon in the computer. I believe in demons. That's a demon in there.
That's it. I'm getting exercise. But when certain things don't work, and
Gates.
yeah,
Bill Gates is definitely. Sorry.
I mean, I think there is a general feeling among society today that recognizes, like, man, something is really, really, really wrong in our world today, and it's not just whatever the media says it is. Something underneath all of that, and I think it's deeply spiritual. I think it crosses all major faiths. And, that's where I think a process like an exorcist or exorcism can have its place right among the medical field or, the psychiatric field. And especially right along a good functioning family the way God intended it to be.
Yeah.
I will say, considering the possibility of that all these people, at the highest rungs are possessed, is more intellectually consistent than only these certain people at the lower ranks are possessed.
Boom.
Although I don't feel like Amorth agrees with that
Give me some
in his
dab.
books
Give me some
because he
dab.
doesn't say that.
Mr. Dab.
Yeah. It is tough to, it is really tough to just label groups. And for me, I don't think that's right. I mean, to just, use general pejorative terms, as you, like you said, homosexuals or gay as a community as a whole is a problem versus just billionaires as if they're all evil or whatever, so I think it's on an individual basis for sure.
I definitely think folks could not throw around the word demonic when they see something they don't like. Would be a better habit because, as we just discussed before, bad stuff happens when you do that. And
For sure.
if we're going to admit that exorcism is a potentially valid thing, a valid profession is exorcist, like we're going to say that these things actually require professional diagnoses. So to say someone is possessed by a demon or someone is demonic would be the same thing as saying that they have this specific ailment just by like watching them on the internet, which would be, anybody would say like, oh, a doctor needs to actually say that.
That's true. And I do agree with that. But to your earlier point, the point you made at the beginning was like, there are a lot of medical researchers these days, secular researchers outside of the church who are just kind of throwing up their hands because guess what? Their synthetically produced medicines aren't solving the problems.
And they're not.
So
They're masking problems. They're perpetuating problems. They're keeping people locked in.
And they validate the fact that there's no way to cure them with modern medicine.
Yeah. And I think they're, to the point now where they're recognizing, all right, in some cases, it may get you through a period. It may even help, but it's not addressing the root problem of what may be ailing a person spiritually.
Yes.
And that's where I think there could be room for both. Mm-hmm.
So this is an interesting thing. I found an article today. It's from 2016. It's actually in Vanity Fair and it's written by William Friedkin, who's I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, but he's like the director. Is he the director, the creator, or the writer of The Exorcist, the original Exorcist movie?
Oh yeah.
But basically he was following Amorth like in his last days.
Interesting.
He made a documentary. It's on YouTube.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
And he's trying to just like understand like was what I portrayed accurate or not.
Yeah.
And a really interesting part, which actually was really interesting because Friedkin came to the opposite conclusion I did after he wrote this, was he was talking about when he took what happened to a neurosurgeon, and then when he took it to like a psychologist or like a mental health professional, and the neurosurgeon was very specific, like I can't explain that. Like that is completely out of my realm. I can't ascribe that to anything that I treat. Why the psychologist is like, it could be these things. It could be these things. Like, I would need more information. But, like, he took that to be like, well, science can't explain it. But to me, I took that as, like, specific professionals were like, that's completely out of my realm. And I'm going to answer that question technically correct, even if it's not, like, really talking to the heart of the issue. Mm-hmm. And, like, the psychologist saying, like, it could be these different things was just speaking to, like, various... Like, there's such a myriad of ways that psychological trauma can manifest, or like, trauma from an event in your life, or even just like, honestly, like, I think there is a certain strain of, like, you could have trauma because of a religious experience or a bad experience in church. And that could later manifest as possession because you're literally conflicting with yourself about what you believe at the deepest level.
Yeah.
So, like, that becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy where literally, in that case, abusive religious practices are fueling what appears to be demonic possession.
I agree.
So on Netflix, it's called The Devil and Father Amorth.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's check this out. And it was actually done by freaking?
It was done by the same guy who did The Exorcist.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
Be interested. I mean, I'm guessing it's like the article is kind of like the summary of it then.
And here's the scary part. He documents an exorcism done by Gabriella Amorth, which was not completed because he died before the exorcism. He had seen this person like 16 times.
Wow.
And he died before the end of the exorcism at 91. And it's kind of sad because now I believe the exorcism was performed by the next exorcist. But the fact it took so long is so discouraging because there's a person who just wants to be rid of the demon, right? And it takes multiple exorcisms sometimes to make that happen. And you have to wonder why God allows that.
Yeah.
Sometimes the struggle, I think, makes us better than what we want us to be.
Yeah.
I can only equate this to training in mixed martial arts because that's what I do, right? Muay Thai. To get ready for this camp, to step into the ring, I hurt my foot. I actually injured my foot, so I couldn't run. And running is how I always cut weight for a fight. It's always how I do it, right? I know I can cut 20 pounds that fast by running for 4 weeks. Not a problem. I hurt my foot. I couldn't run. So I had to adjust, and I started doing 30 minutes of kettlebells a day. Like 30 minutes of kettlebells. And not only did the weight shred off of me, my strength tripled, my endurance tripled, and I felt great. Like it was just phenomenal. And sometimes you have to wonder if that struggle that you go through is placed there on purpose to make you better.
Interesting.
Father Rippiger, an exorcist, he often says that when a person is possessed, God knows what possesses them. But he only allows the demon to inflict those things that will save their soul. So you have to wonder if even the possession itself is only there to help us become better than what we are.
Interesting. I can't remember if it was this movie or The Right by Anthony Hopkins where they said, you only exist to glorify God and serve his purpose.
Boom.
Yeah. And I found that very fascinating. I'm like, wow, it's like, all right, you got to get through this. I got to get through this. Let's just get started.
Yeah.
We know what the deal is. We know what the eventual outcome is.
Yeah. And the atheist will look at that and say, oh, man, God is such a narcissist, right? What a narcissist. Yeah. We're better if we're like him. Oh, what a narcissist.
Yeah.
Except that when we consider that he is the author of all life that exists, and he's trying to bring us up to that standpoint, is it narcissism, or is it simply somebody trying to make that person better? I have children who are now in their 20s, and they now tell me, oh my Lord, Dad, I wish I'd listened to you, because if I had, I would have not gone through as much problems as I went through. We go through tragedy. We go through travesty. And if we look at God as the Father of and the author of life, who already sees what we're going to go through, and we ignore it, how much greater is the tragedy that he has to feel because we ignored him? Because each one of us as parents have to look at our children when they don't listen to us, and we suffer with them when they do what we told them not to do.
It's brutal.
Yeah. So I have to think that part of this plays into that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I think another part also too, and this may be kind of a little bit off the beaten path, but in terms of why people may need quote unquote psychiatry help. One of the reasons why I have such skepticism toward modern day psychiatry in and of itself versus just mental therapy or cognitive therapy, you know, just talking things out, doing, you know, kind of practical things. But, you know, when I think of like the history of modern psychiatry, and people don't like to use the word conspiracy theorist because, you know, it's like, as soon as you say the word, it's meant to be like, oh, mic drop, right? It ends the statement. It ends the debate. There's no more debate if you're consider that. But our government has all out acknowledged and apologized officially through Bill Clinton what happened to the Tuskegee men in our country who were experimented on and MK Ultra victims.
Yeah.
That was messing with people's minds in the worst imaginable ways. And the families were just left to be victimized and have to deal with that throughout the generations after that. And so, you know, I could see the church having to help contend with that when the government just turns its back on it.
Yeah.
So, you know, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. It may have happened in 1995 when we officially have to acknowledge it. That may have happened.
Yeah.
So we're sorry. Here's a little bit of money.
And we have more conspiracy theory episodes.
I don't even like to use the word because, you know,
we have covered conspiracy theories in previous episodes, and we have more coming up because some are legitimate and some we can actually add validation to. Other ones are more difficult, but we can add validation to some of these. And as a Christian community, we need to know how to tackle them. So we have more coming up.
yeah.
All right.
I'm just saying that, you know, like a victim of, let's say, any victim of MK Ultra that was experimented on maybe by our government, if they walked into the Catholic Church, we may say, there's a demon in you. We may need to exorcise you. That kind of thing. So there could be that gray area, that overlap that we don't know.
I can see it.
When people's minds have been so, I mean, just so messed up.
Yeah.
In the worst imaginable ways.
Yeah. I will say that from every Exorcist investigation I've done, every exorcist tries to make sure that every medical and mental thing is covered first. And sometimes they still reject them and send them back to medical.
To the Catholic Church's defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
So they don't just resort back to exorcism.
But when I think about, like, you know, the Tuskegee events that happen in our country, right? Not just the Black African communities or the, you know, the MK Ultra programs or whatever it is that our government may have not been involved with, you know, it's hard to deny evil.
Yeah.
People who did that need the exorcism.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But they won't.
They'll never get it.
because they don't think that they're possessed by a demon. They thought they just did what they had to do, or they had some ulterior motive. I'm not as familiar with those events, but I was listening to an audiobook that was talking about experimentation done on Puerto Ricans, like on the island of Puerto Rico.
Gumby.
Talk about it. I never heard of it.
Yeah, sorry, but this doctor just thought there was this population that would accept my experimentation, and this was for the greater good, and I'm okay. And that, of course, is not okay. But there's a million people, a bunch of people who think about that in different contexts. That if there's something I could do to people, and I can envision some greater good that comes from it, that I'm good.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with me. And that's kind of sick.
Well, what's the quote that I've often heard? The path of good intentions is always laid with evil, or something like that.
Yeah. I forget the name of the doctor, but basically everybody knew forever in Puerto Rico that he was doing these things, and he was still being lionized well into the 70s, 80s, 90s even on the mainland as being this great benevolent person. Yeah. That's a whole nother thing.
Well,
but
Keith, you haven't refilled the popcorn, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm always worried about the noise that I'll cause. There we go.
I know we kind of rabbit trail, but back to the movie.
Yeah.
Yes. Back to the movie.
These were great trails, though. They were still relevant.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to investigate more of that.
Yeah.
The Puerto Rican.
I should say the book, How to Hide an Empire. I forget the name of the author, but that book is an exhaustive book about the history of American colonialism, and that is one small episode, and it's a 17-hour audiobook. I definitely read it on 1.5.
That's nothing. I'm doing a 40-hour audiobook right now on Audible.
That'll take a while.
Yeah.
So when they were in the what I'm guessing was symbolic for hell underneath, right? And Russell Crowe, it was like he was beginning to weaken, and seemed like he was beginning to give up, but he was possessed. The light came through, right?
Yes.
All of a sudden, who appeared?
Mary.
The Virgin Mary.
In Deception.
Yeah. I was very fascinated by that part. I'm like,
So
oh, man.
that story comes more from Padre Pio than it comes from Gabriella North.
Okay. So there's some kind of truth to it?
There is, yes.
Okay.
So Padre Pio did state that the Mother Mary and Jesus would come to him, but it wasn't actually them. And then eventually, because of their words were not consistent with the words they have historically. And so he'd call them out. And when he called them out, the devil would reveal himself.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she didn't remain, Mary for very long.
No, not at all.
But
And spoiler alert, don't let your kids watch this movie because there is some exposure to things, both language and bodily.
That's probably the least of their concerns, though. I mean, seeing some boobs in the movie, there's a lot of worse things than that.
oh my God, the children.
We didn't even. I don't know.
We just made this NC-17.
I don't know where else to mention it, but I feel like we just have to mention the Pope barfing blood on the other bishops
Hey.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Leave the
All right.
Pope alone.
That's a good. All right. Thank you for bringing that up. What did you guys think of overall the Pope?
I LOL.
I liked
that
it.
For
part.
me, I thought the dude was pretty
So
too cool.
he was
too
way
hip.
cool. But here's the thing. He represented John Paul II.
Was he that cool
Yes.
with a beard?
Well, he didn't.
This Pope was kind of borderline Miami Vice, man.
So he didn't have a beard. He did not have a beard, but he was that cool. John Paul II was okay, not trying to be mean, but he was the pimp of popes. Okay, so
Yeah.
John Paul II was awesome. He had the spirituality to exemplify people's deeper thoughts, emotions, and where they needed to go. He embodied leadership to the point where he was suffering from Parkinson's and everything else. He never let up. Every day, he still guided the fold. He was there until the day he died. So he exemplified leadership. He was a spiritual leader. He had spiritual magnitude. I will never forget this. I pulled up before I was Catholic because I was trying to figure out which way I was going to go.
Mm-hmm. So you were a Christian. Go ahead.
Yep. Put up them. So I pulled up this quote unquote expose that was on Amazon. They was talking about the sins of Pope John Paul II, right? And how there was this woman that he had a relationship, quote unquote, with, right?
No.
Married woman at that.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
Take a little bit of that back.
Right. So here's the thing. It goes through this whole thing. It's like an hour and a half long. And at the end of this, you realize, wait a minute. He never had sexual relations with her. They exchanged friendly letters. They had friendly discourse. How is this an expose? Like, hold on. So
big fat nothing
they were
burger.
friends. Yeah. Okay. So like literally the biggest expose they had was that he had a friend that was female. That was it. Literally, that was it.
Was he the Pope? There was an assassination attempt against?
Yes. They say, and we'll do a future episode on this because it's fascinating. We will do a future episode on this. That he was prophesied to be assassinated and that he survived.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we'll do a future episode on that because there's a lot of threads in that prophecy. So we'll discuss that in a future episode.
How
and
much
we'll let Keith interject all of his doubts.
I mean, on the Pope character himself in the movie, like you can file all like my comments on that under the same thing about like it didn't really need to be about Morth. Like it could have just been a random exorcist doing these crazy things. So like the Pope character wouldn't have needed to be there in that. Like he basically served the like Da Vinci Code style subplot. So he did.
Shut up, Dan Brown.
But I mean, like, I LOL'd when the Pope barfed blood from demonic influence on the hospital bed or whatever the heck that was. I don't even know what was going on there.
Symbolic.
I thought it was COVID personally, but I digress. But I would imagine because Russell Crowe could really nail that personality was a big reason why they chose him.
I mean, I think they chose. Well, number one, they got the rights to the book or the books or whatever. Number two, I felt like there was an attempt to appeal to that faith-based crowd. So tying it to, especially, I'm guessing he has even more renown internationally, like around like Europe and Italy, than he does in the U.S. But like, so tying the character to that persona creates this gravitas. It creates this faith-based pull into the universe. And I think because like a movie is a group project and a lot of things happen along the way, I think they got just kind of strayed from that ultimately. Yeah. And like that was like you end up in the weird, uncanny spot where, okay, you're trying to draw the faith-based movie crowd in, but by the end of the movie, you're showing bare-breasted women. So maybe those do line up. I don't know.
And to Keith's point, the first 2/3 of the movie are really, really good. The last 2/3 of the movie are mostly violence, blood, and boobies. Well, there's only 2 instances of boobies, but
yeah, they got that order wrong. But yeah,
see, I would say the last third of the movie is actually a good traditional horror movie. But and the first 2/3
bad exorcism, very bad exorcism.
Yeah. I think the balance, maybe after the first 10 minutes, it's probably actually like mediocre to bad exorcism movie.
But do you guys really think they were trying to market after faith-based evangelical audience?
Morth, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the Catholic Church?
Yes.
Interesting.
Honestly, the Vatican portrayal is kind of like basic enough that I think it gives them the evidence they weren't trying to like play like what's that movie where the 2 popes talk to each other?
2 popes.
The 2 popes. Is it literally called the 2 popes?
It's called 2 popes.
Like I feel like that movie plays more to Catholics specifically, not the evangelical community. But when you like,
still not accurate, by the way. Still not accurate.
Yeah. Notwithstanding that, but when you portray the Catholic Church at such kind of like a basic like level, like you're taking that conflict at a very simplistic way. I think you are trying to appeal across Christendom at that point.
Yeah.
I certainly did not get that feeling by watching this movie from the beginning.
When
Or
you
even before that, versus watching a movie like Facing the Giants, corny Christian movies that have come out. I'm trying to think of the other ones. B movies.
Right. Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
God's Not Dead.
God's Not Dead.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, like
that's culture war catnip. Now,
like-
and there's different levels of this. So like those movies, like Facing the Giants, is almost like the proto Christian movie of Christian movies. And I wish I could find more examples, but there have been efforts of like mainstream studios. So you go from having what's the name of that? Sherwood Studios was the one who did like Facing the Giants and a lot of the movies by the two brothers. What are the two brothers' names? Dang it, I'm blanking out. But those two brothers who do all those movies, like one is usually acting, one is usually writing. Those are like the very explicit, like we're the Christian people making the Christian movies. But you'll see a lot of movies with faith-based themes that are picked up by mainstream studios that like kind of try to toe that line between like we are the Christian movie, but we're also like mainstream, like we're going to be released in like all the theaters and stuff like that. And that's where I think The Pope's Exorcist was going in that direction.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
I didn't really see that. I thought they were just trying to market it towards light horror.
No, I can see where Keith's going, and I would say again, the first 2/3 of the movie, I think, are very accurate to
'Cause-
his struggle with certain people in the church, his character, his fun character, like cuckoo, right. So,
Yeah.
so
But that would only be known to Catholics.
the first 2/3 of the movie are pretty consistent about him and who he is and who his struggle is. The last third of the movie, I would say, is all Hollywood.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I do agree with that. But what I'm saying is usually when those, and I'm sorry to pick on Protestant Christian movies, but when those kind of corny Christian movies come out, there's such a buzz within the Protestant movement about every movie that comes out. Have you seen this? I mean, every person I run into who I know
The Chosen.
is of the Protestant faith are talking about it. There's such a buzz, and you got to go see it, and you know it's going to change your life forever. You know, and some of them are pretty okay. Most of
I
them are
actually
pretty
like
bad.
The Chosen so far.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
But that was not the same. This was not even on the radar.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true.
So that's what I'm like. When I first watched, I'm like, what are they trying to really push this as? Like,
I think they're trying to push it towards, the Exorcist crowd.
it didn't even get the same feedback that the Da Vinci Code got from the Protestant church.
True.
The Protestant church was all out against that.
And to be honest, I think they may have missed the crowd.
Maybe.
I could see that. Like there's a certain sometimes you get that crowd because it's viral, where like it's just picked up like this is going to be like I kind of feel like I don't know a lot about The Chosen, but I kind of feel like The Chosen is a little more viral in that respect. Where like I don't think they really sought that crowd.
It hits
They
everybody.
got them. But and then there's cases where it's actually like astroturfed. So like Unplanned, like the movie about Abby Johnson's story, that's astroturfing, where very specifically they're reaching out to the faith-based groups.
Mm-hmm.
They are the faith-based groups, and they're trying to drum up basically that it's like your Christian duty to go watch this movie. So there's those different levels. So there's astroturfing, there's the grassroots, like The Chosen, and then there's like maybe you tried for the grassroots, but you kind of failed, and that's probably The Pope's Exorcist.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I just thought they were trying to get Russell to do horror.
No,
But I like the movie overall.
No, so here's the thing. I do like the movie. I really do. Russell did a great job. The scripting was actually fairly solid. The first 2/3 of the movie are consistent with both Catholic faith and exorcism, and Gabriella Amoris' life. So overall, I like the movie. The last third of the movie, I think, is the problem with most of us. Because the last third of the movie has all the problems, all the qualms, and it diverges from what actual exorcism is. It diverges to sensationalism, to, hey, this is what an exorcist really deals with, when no exorcist has ever dealt with that. Right? Because exorcism is actually about liturgy. And you beat the devil through standard, beautiful, righteous liturgy. So to add this sensationalism to it is to actually take away from that and the simplicity that is beating the devil. God gave us liturgy. So if we do liturgy, we beat the devil. And so it goes too far. It takes away from the simplicity of what exorcism is supposed to be. But that being said, I like the movie. The first 2/3 I thought were really good. I really enjoyed it. My kids won't watch it until over the age of 16.
I won't watch it with my wife. I did get a kick out of the part. First of all, the initial struggle between, I guess, what they're within the Catholic Church, I guess they're considering Russell traditional and Orthodox, right? Stuck in his ways. And then I guess, were they all bishops?
Yes.
What he called the firing squad?
Cardinals.
The Cardinals. The youngest Cardinal, the newest, was the one who was after him. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing they were trying to imply that he was modern, maybe liberal, didn't believe in all these things, right? They weren't trying to imply that.
I would say
they did imply that.
I would say they applied it the opposite way, that he was the traditionalism that they're trying to oppose so they can come into the new life. Because they're trying to embrace the new modernism.
He outright said it. Yeah, he was like these old ways that,
Yeah, because like he said, okay, so if the devil doesn't exist, why are we here?
Right, and I saw that dialogue back and forth. But when I guess I just got a kick out of once Russell Crowe finally defeated that demon, that bishop or cardinal,
is removed. Yes.
He fell to his knees and got sick and was removed.
Yeah.
Implying that, the new modern ways.
It owns him.
I'm like, all right. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily fully agree with that.
So to a certain extent, I do, and partially I don't.
Yeah.
So
it was too broad for me. That was too broad of a stroke for me.
It covers too many subject matters. So partially, if good and evil are good, they're always good and evil, right? And it exists through time, because time, like we experience time, we say, well, we don't need that anymore, right? Except that the experience of time is very human. That does not play a factor in things that are eternal. Like if I'm an atom that exists in a rock, 20,000 years is a blink of my eye. I don't care, right? 50,000 years, my eye isn't even opened yet, right? 100,000 years, not even a day, right? So when we look at time and the way a human experiences time, we're like, that's old stuff. That's ancient. It's no longer relevant. Except that you aren't relevant to your own time, because time has already passed you. So there's certain things in time that are eternal. And when we neglect that, we neglect those things that actually transpire and exist through what we consider to be time.
So within the upper echelons of the Catholic leadership, all the way to Vatican, is that a real struggle?
Yes.
What they portrayed?
100%. Definitely. Yes.
Okay. That's what I want to know. Like,
yeah. Like Keith and I are on two different spectrums on this.
Really?
I mean, I agree there's like a real struggle there. I mean, like, I think...
Is that what you guys call trads and...
Oh, I'm not a trad. I
mean,
I like traditional.
But is that what that is?
It's maybe adjacent that, like, trads would cite demonic influence more than non-trads would.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just trying to connect some dots.
And I think that discussion takes place in different contexts outside of like the traditional trad versus not trad. Mm-hmm. Whatever you call that. When we talk about bishops in the Vatican, for instance, I was just thinking, like, we're talking about that final scene like where that bishop just isn't there anymore. I was thinking, if this was like more of a traditional like nuts and bolts, like this is how possession and exorcism actually work, and like that, like the climax of the movie could have been him facing that bishop. Like the bishop was still there, and he was like, he had no words when Amorth actually described what happened. Like that could have been the climax of the movie, but because the climax was actually like crazy basement blood, lava, whatever, then you kind of just like the post climax resolution is kind of just, well, the bishop's not there anymore and Amorth is right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And for the non-Catholic or the non-religious person, I mean, the message that sent was like, don't dare think that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's why I thought that was a bit too broad for me, but.
Yeah. So, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, good and evil exist in an eternal war back and forth with each other. I would actually start to relate this back to the movie The Prophecy.
Best movies ever.
Yeah,
man.
Christopher Walken.
Yes.
There's this war that's happening.
I'm gonna go back and binge watch it now that you say it.
Right? There's this war that I see happening between the forces of good and evil. And we're pawns inside the schema, right? We're there, but half the time most of us aren't even relevant, right? Not because we don't play a factor, but because we choose to ignore it. And when we choose to ignore what's happening, we are no longer playing in the game. It kind of like in The Matrix when Agent Smith just takes people over. Well, it just takes people over because they just exist. They're not players.
Empty vessels.
Yeah. They're NPCs, right? They're non-player characters, right?
I can relate to that.
I will expand that later.
I think we all can.
Keith just admitted to being a program. Anyway. And I see that inside of this realm, right? Where kind of like inside that movie, people often ignore the struggles of good and evil because it's not relevant to what they think is their life, right? They focus on their corporeal life because their corporeal life is all that means anything to them right now. They don't have a big picture. And that big picture, unfortunately, would be what teaches them where they are relevant. What tiny little dot of color they add to the tapestry. Because none of us are a thread, right? We like to pretend as humans that we're this thread in the tapestry. No, you're not. None of us are. We are a dot, a little dot of color on a thread in the tapestry. That's what we are. And here's the thing. Anybody who has watched a video game, who has seen the problems in a video game, will notice immediately when there's one pixel missing. We'll see it, right? Anybody who plays a lot of games, I see it. I know Keith sees it. Mm-hmm. When we see one pixel missing, we see the problem, we see the anomaly. When one person is missing from the faith, we see it. They're that missing pixel inside the faith. They're that one missing pixel that we notice. And that's what we need to realize. And that's why people need to engage inside of this. That's why people need to realize that, yeah, you may feel like you're nothing. You are the missing pixel.
That's why I use Apple.
Retina display, more pixels, right?
No.
Aaron's about to jump on me and beat the crap out of me.
I'm going to leave that alone right now. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to leave them and their slave labor alone.
I have exorcised the demon.
Honestly, Samsung usually has higher DPI than Apple now.
Thank you.
So, more pixels. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying it is, but you know.
It's true. There's a reason why Apple often buys Samsung stuff. Anyway. Yeah. But yeah, Keith, final thoughts?
Oh gosh. I mean, it was a fun horror flick. As I said, I thought it was conflicted. And reading, it caused me to read more into exorcism and, you know, Father Amorth. And I'm frankly more alarmed, but also than ever, but also looking more to talking about it. And I actually held my tongue when you mentioned Father Ripperture, which I could go on forever about.
Future episode.
Yes.
Gumby?
Yeah, really great podcast. I did enjoy the movie. I think I enjoyed the movie for what it was. I guess I wasn't expecting like this deep, I wasn't expecting like something that was deeply theological based or maybe that accurate, or how accurate it could have been or whatever. I just, for what it was, I thought it was pretty good. However, I did appreciate, to the Catholics' defense, they did not just try to throw the Catholics under the bus in terms of other things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like so many other Hollywood movies have. And I'm like, wow, that was actually quite refreshing.
Well balanced.
Yeah. So because of that, had they just try to bring up that subject of like abuse or anything like that at the beginning, I'd have shut the movie off.
Yeah.
Because I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
I see what you're trying to do. And I wouldn't even give it the time of day.
Yeah.
But they didn't do that. And so therefore I gave, I can enjoy Russell for his great acting.
Big props.
Cheers to Russell.
Love the
By
beer.
the way,
Love the beers tonight. There's nothing taboo over brew.
that's right. These were pretty good. I do enjoy the Members Mark stuff far more than I thought I would. And again, I lost weight with a healthy weight loss program from
You can't
MovieManAcademy.com.
you can't throw that in now.
Remember, MovieManAcademy.com, Muay Thai Bata programs.
That's true. Yep.
It works.
And running. And dieting.
That's right.
Generally being good at martial arts.
And actually getting up and moving.
That's right.
Propelling your
Come and
legs.
see us at MovieManAcademy.com, and we'll throw some Muay Thai Bata programs at you. In fact, we're releasing the first 2 seasons for free. If you go to Muay Thai Culture on YouTube, we'll be throwing those first two seasons at you for free, no charge.
Sweet. And if I recall, isn't Muay Thai Bata the only one of its kind?
It is. You have a great memory.
Come on, man. That's amazing. You got to try it out.
It's trademarked. It is the very first Muay Thai program specifically developed as a progressive hit system for Muay Thai, so you can get better, faster, and harder at Muay Thai while learning it.
Faster and harder.
Bring your own Members Mark alcoholic seltzer, though.
Yeah, bring your own seltzer. All right. Remember, come see us on everything social media. Godspeed.
Peace out. Happy 4th.